Welcome back to the Balance Barbells podcast. Today, I wanted to continue the series that I started a couple weeks ago about the winter arc and locking in on your daily habits and giving you some more resources on how to carry this winter arc season and what to be focusing on. So we're going to be doing a multi-part series on the winter arc, and I'm going to be breaking down different topics that are going to give you exactly what to be focusing on and give you some structure over the next couple of weeks so that you can go into 2026 feeling your best and seeing some results. Because let's be honest, if you are feeling bored, if you are jumping from plan to plan, and if you don't really know what to be focusing on, more than likely you're probably not seeing results, because not seeing results is going to lead to boredom because you're putting in the work, but you're not seeing the reward. And if you are kind of bouncing around, you're more than likely not going to be seeing results because you're not building on that consistency, you're not building on that intensity. And we're kind of all over the place and winging it and hoping the results are going to follow. And let's be real, results don't happen by accident. They happen through purpose and through structure. So I'm going to give you the resources that you need so that you can start to see results and that you can actually use the next 6 to 8 weeks to excel your progress and see results before 2026 and go into the new year feeling like you've accomplished something, feeling like you have clear direction and knowing what to be doing so that you can accelerate those results even further next year without feeling like you're starting over and starting fresh in the new year. So in today's episode, I want to kind of talk about my version of what I think is important to be locking in on and giving you some actionable items to start putting into place this week. And I'm starting a podcast subscription. This is going to be the first series inside of the subscription where you can get deeper dives into these topics. They're going to feel more like coaching sessions. And I'm going to really cover a lot of different things that I would in a coaching session, more so in these, so that you feel like you have more information and you can follow along and do this in a very structured way versus feeling like you're kind of piecing it together. So inside of that subscription, it's supposed to be systemized, and it's going to be ways that I coach and teach my clients. And I'm going to share those resources with you and share those coaching sessions with you in more of a deep dive conversation. So if you're interested in that, you can find the information down below where you can subscribe, where you can get exclusive episodes that are going to be much more in depth and give you a lot more resources and how to accomplish your goals. Now, I'll still be doing a lot of deep dives and I'll still be doing a lot of different topics inside of the free version of the podcast, but I wanted to kind of have a way for the people who are invested in the podcast and the people who really are using the podcast weekly to use it as their leverage for growing and actually seeing results, to have another resource that they can use to get the results that they want and actually have the tools in front of them and be treated like coaching sessions. So just know that that's there for additional resources and if you're really ready to accelerate. Otherwise, the free version is still going to have a lot of value and it's still going to talk about a lot of different topics. This is my baby and I absolutely love this podcast, so I'm not going to be abandoning that by any means, but I definitely wanted to give you guys more resources for the ones who are ready to go to the next level and really accelerate the results. And let's talk about why I think winter is kind of your advantage season. Why I think that if you are focused and really focused on the right things, this can be a season for you to see results more so than you would maybe in the summertime, and why it is a really good time to be locking in on habits and being very structured. First, this is kind of a season where a lot of people are more cozy and a lot of people are more focused on relaxing and winding down. And I think that that's a very important season for rest, recovery, and for just being a little bit more cozy and indoors. However, I think that there's a way to have a balance of the two where you are structured in the things that you're focusing on. And instead of feeling like you are kind of bouncing around and having a bunch of different things that you're trying to incorporate, you're really structured on the things that are important. And it's really aligned towards that bigger goal you're trying to reach, whether that be fat loss or muscle mass that you're trying to build, but that you have those key things that you're focusing on a daily basis. I was just talking to a client the other day who was talking about how her weekends are the days that she really fills her cup and that she is able to work out. She's able to get her walks in. She's able to meal prep and she really enjoys that time. But during the week, it's a really busy time for her. As winter is coming and it's getting darker sooner and the days are shorter and it gets colder, it's really hard for her to work and focus on her fitness and nutrition. And she needs a clear plan that she can focus on. And I would say that's true for a lot of us, but it can be overwhelming because then we get into a state where we have our week routine, where we're going to work, we're trying to balance our fitness and nutrition, we get overwhelmed or burnt out, and we can quit halfway through the week. And then the weekend is used as a time almost as a way to recoup and rest. And you don't do enough of the right things. And then you start over again on Monday, hoping you're going to have the motivation to carry you through the week, but you don't have enough structure to keep you consistent. And I would say that that is a problem for most people. And it's either not having enough structure or not having enough routines and not really knowing the core focus or the core things that you need to be doing on a daily basis. And if you don't have those, it can feel like you're focusing on a lot of different things and it can feel like you can't get all of it done. burning yourself out and then just thinking that you're never going to get the results because you just don't have the time. And that's the biggest complaint that I hear is I don't have enough time. I have too much going on and there's just no way that I can fit it in. Probably just not going to be able to get results unless I quit my job. And I don't want you to feel that way. What I want you to feel is that you are able to accomplish anything that you want, but you have to be focused and you have to be diligent. Just like when you do a project at work, if you're kind of bouncing around, you have a bunch of different tabs open, it can be really overwhelming and it's hard to focus on a key thing. And you can start to be kind of feeling flustered or like you can't do enough or not focus enough on the right things. And you might not accomplish enough of the right tasks, making you feel like you have an endless to-do list. And so what you need to do is try and focus on one thing at a time and be making sure that you're giving your attention to that one task and being so diligent that even you're time blocking and you're moving on to the next task during the time windows and being very diligent about where you're spending your energy versus bouncing around and doing a bunch of different multitasking and not getting enough done because you're focused on too many things. That's the same thing for your fitness and nutrition. You have to have enough structure that you know what to be focusing on and you're giving that effort during that time instead of feeling like you're doing everything at one time. If you are trying to do all of the workouts, you're working out 6 days a week, you're trying to meal prep, you're trying to prep your meals at the time before you eat, you're trying to figure out what to be eating at the time that you're hungry, and you just don't have anything prepped and ready to go, and then you're trying to hit your step goal and you're not getting up with your alarm clock or you're missing your alarm and you're just starting the day really chaotic, it's going to be impossible for you to actually get these things done because there's no structure. It's just a lot of chaos and a running to-do list that you're just trying to fit into the day. And I need you to look at it from a different perspective of trying to fit your fitness and fit your nutrition and fit your daily steps and your activity into your life and looking at how your life is going to play out and giving yourself a bigger outline and a bigger strategy that you can use each week. And I'll kind of give you some ways to do that, but I'm going to break this down more on the subscription on 6 pillars of how you're going to do this. But I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of how you can do this and why you should be taking advantage of this during the winter time. The first being that this is kind of a quiet season. This is a time where a lot of people aren't having a ton of vacations. They're not necessarily traveling as much. Kids are back in school and you're more into your regular routine. Yes, the holidays are coming. Yes, there's some things that are going to add to that and it's going to be a little bit more busy, but it's less distracted and there's less hours of the day where you're out and about and doing a bunch of different things. And you're more focused on kind of your routine. You're at work usually, you have the kids in school, you have after school activities, and there's even some other aspects that are going to be happening during the holiday season. But this is kind of more of a regular flow of life versus summertime. There's lots of vacation, there's a lot of barbecues, there's things that come up, the days are longer, and it's a little bit less structured. I feel like it's not as quiet of a season. People are very active, they're out and about, meant to be doing things because of the weather and because of travel and things like that. But with the cozy season, I think this is a much quieter season for most people where they get to be really structured, they get into their routine, and now it's really a foundation that you just need to build. And what you have to look at is how your week kind of flows. I bet there's a lot of consistency when you look at your week and you could say that I get up around this time or generally in these windows, I go to bed at these windows of time and I go to work, I do this during the day, I take the kids to their activities, and at the end of the day, I scroll social media. There's a lot of different things that you could probably look at and there's a consistent pattern that is in your day to day. And what I need you to look at is first, where you have extra time that might not feel like you have it when you look at the end of the day. When you see the end of the day, it can be really easy to be like, I had the craziest day ever. There's no way I could have fit in a workout. But if you look at the little moments, you actually track your time and you look at different areas where potentially you're spending some time that you might not even have thought of, or maybe you're just lacking this structure. You're lacking the overview and the chaos is kind of leaving your day and you're winging it. That's a really big one that I see is hoping that there's going to be a window of time where you feel like you can get that workout in and either motivation isn't there or maybe you're just a little bit tired after work or maybe you just didn't plan enough and now you have to pick between what you're going to have for dinner and how you're going to get to the gym and it's just not going to work out. And what we really need to do here is figure out where the day got away from us. Were we either not paying attention to the time that we had? Did we not plan or properly prepare with some other time that we could have had earlier in this week so that we could potentially have meals prepped for dinner and then we could could have gone to the gym after work? Or could you have packed a bag with you and stopped on your way home instead of getting home, hoping you have the motivation to change into your workout clothes and then go back out to the gym? What is it that you need to do that we can restructure these things? And we need to look into the daily chaos and the daily activities and try and have fewer trips, have fewer distractions, and limit the amount of resistance. The resistance is what's going to hold you back from making the choice, because you have a hard decision that you have to make in a moment that you already don't want to make the decision and you don't actually want to take the action. So we need to eliminate those areas that are going to hold you back. And I think winter can be two things. It can be a really hard time to stay motivated because it's dark, cold, and you want to just relax. But it's also a time where there's less going on, and we need to find ways to capitalize on the ability to have a foundational routine and limit the amount of resistance by giving ourselves some structure. This is going to be something that you have to build into your daily life. If you are trying to fit in something for somebody else's routine, like I hear this one a lot. I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I'm not an influencer. I have a full-time job. I have kids, and I just can't fit all of it in. It's because you're trying to fit it into a mold that's not meant for you. If you are building in your fitness and your nutrition into a mold that is meant for you and that works for you, it will flow and it'll feel like less resistance. There will be a little resistance because change is always uncomfortable. And your brain is going to protect you from that because it wants you to be in a comfortable state. And anything that's outside of your routine is going to be uncomfortable for a little bit of time. But if you're trying to fit in a 17-step morning routine and the kids are waking up at the same time as you have to take them to school, you have to get to work, you're not going to be able to do all of those things that an influencer does or a stay-at-home mom does. And you should know that right away. You need to find a way to fit it into your life and simplify. We're not trying to add more necessarily. We're trying to simplify and strategize. That's what we need to be looking at with this. So how are you actually going to be locking in, and what does that mean? Locking in my opinion, isn't necessarily that you have to do like a 75 hard or you have to do anything super intense and try a new diet plan. I want you to look at this as clarity. I want you to be locking in on the things that you know are going to move the needle for you. You need to be doing the things that are going to help you reach your bigger goal, that are going to help simplify your day and help you to feel less chaotic. That's what I want you to think of when you're locking in. How are you going to try and create a consistent training schedule? What are the meals that are going to help you make meals simple and help you get a little bit more consistent with them? And how are you going to strategize them and have a plan so you don't feel like you never know what to eat, but have a plan of what to eat instead? And then what are you going to be doing for making sure that you're recovering, you're resting, and you're energized? These are the things that are going to help you move forward. And they're the things that if you're locking in on and you're building habits and routines around, you're going to be so much more consistent by the end of the year and feeling a lot less chaotic. This comes from looking at those bad habits that we talked about before, looking at the areas that are holding you back and trying to help you kind of get clear on where you could replace some of that time. I was just talking to a client the other day who was telling me that she feels like she doesn't have enough time for her steps. And we spent 15 minutes kind of running through what her day actually looked like. And when she actually wrote down like how she spent her day and she had to forcefully sit down and look at, if I said that I was doing this activity at this point, did I actually do this activity? We found a lot of little pockets of time where she was either mindlessly scrolling, she was on the phone with a friend, or she was doing things that she didn't realize she was doing because it wasn't in her calendar and it kind of became mindless because of the chaos of the day. So then we found pockets of time where she could structure in and be intentional about her steps, whether that was calling a friend and going for a walk while doing that versus sitting on the couch, or if it was hopping on the treadmill or the walking pad while she was working and being a little bit more mindful of a task that maybe didn't require that much amount of effort from her and that she could be writing an email and walking, getting some extra steps in. And then we looked at strategy. Where was she able to add in more steps? She started her morning the next day with a 30-minute walk, and then she spent time after her meals going for 5 to 10-minute walks that turned into even 15-minute walks because she realized she had a little bit of extra time after lunch. And instead of sitting on her phone and scrolling at work, she spent her time walking and being active. And by the end of the week, we were hitting her step goal at least 5 times that week. And really that came down to the fact that she was structuring her day. She was being more strategic about how she was spending her time instead of just saying, I don't have the time. And the only person that's really going to analyze that and be able to tell you where you can fix these things is you. You have to be honest with yourself. And the first activity I would have you do is go through your daily activities and write down your calendar, have an idea of what you're going to be doing, but then go back every 30 minutes to an hour and write down what you actually did. Because oftentimes we find ourselves getting distracted or something else coming up, and even just having conversations with maybe coworkers or somebody else, and we're not actually doing the things that we said that we were going to be doing. So we need to make sure that we're analyzing, are we being strategic? Are we doing the things we're saying? And what do we actually spend our time doing so that you can figure out where you can make improvements? So what do you want to focus on this winter? And the areas that I want you to be really diligent about and finding ways to add these routines in. First is your training and your focus on your strength training. How is your training plan structured? Do you have set days where you go to the gym? Do you have set days and set workouts that you're doing? Do you have 3 to 4 structured strength training sessions per week? Or are you kind of just winging it? Do you not have a good plan put together? Do you not know what you're going to do when you go to the gym? And do you not have a good routine of how you're going to fit that into your weekly schedule? Everyone is so different with this. Some people just need gym workouts. Some people only need home workouts. You need to figure out the environment that works for you and what's realistic for you. There's not necessarily a right or a wrong, but there is a lack of structure that can lead you to not getting results because you're kind of just going with the motions. And if it's not structured, if it's not based on intensity, and if it's not helping you grow and get stronger or towards your bigger goal, you're not going to get results from it. So just because you're moving your body doesn't mean the outcome is going to be weight loss or building muscle mass. It needs to be structured and it needs to be focused on your performance and it needs to be focused on your bigger goal. You need to kind of figure out what that is and stop chasing the burnout and start chasing how you're going to be adding in structure and progress because it's not quantity, it's quality that you need to be focused on. You could be working out 3 days a week, not 6 days a week, and be getting a much better outcome if it's really structured. So make sure that you have a good program that you can follow and you're not just chasing working out 1 to 2 hours a day and feeling exhausted and feeling like you're sweating a lot. You want to be making sure that it's really structured to that bigger goal that you have, but that it also fits in your life so that you can do it 4 weeks out of the month, not 1 week out of the month when it's perfect. For your nutrition, I want you to start simplifying the way that you are focusing on your nutrition. You don't need the fanciest meal. You don't need to have a Pinterest-worthy aesthetic for every single meal you have. It doesn't have to be super colorful and bright and pretty every single meal. What we need is balanced nutrition. We need balanced meals that you can have 3 core meals a day that are going to hit your protein, your complex carbohydrates with slow digesting carbs and fiber, your micronutrients, which is going to be your fruits and your vegetables, and your healthy fats, and how you're going to build this out, the very basic format for your meals. Half of your plate in micronutrients, fruits or vegetables, 1/4 to half of your plate in protein. And those are the 2 components you add to your plate first. And I want you to think about that with every meal that you're building. Then you add in your complex carbohydrates, and then you add in your healthy fats. And those can be either a drizzle from like dressing or sauces, or it can be in your cooking oils. But having those components in your meal, we want to focus on 3 of those a day. And those can be simple. If you build those out in a way where you have your protein prepped and your vegetables prepped, it's going to be a matter of throwing things together really quickly. You can cook 2 protein sources, 2 carbohydrate sources, and 2 vegetable sources and have at least 6 different meals for the week if you mix and match them well. So make sure that you're looking at how you can simplify your meals with the recipes and the ingredients you have versus feeling like you have 50 different recipes. Really, you need 3 to 4 solid options that you can rotate and that you can have maybe leftovers from dinner or different recipes for lunches, but you have staples for breakfast that are going to simplify the amount of cooking time that you have and the ability for you to throw together quick meals. A lot of women I talk to deal with this, and I deal with this. I am a big believer in meal prep for lunches because if I don't have something prepped, I'm not eating lunch or I'm not eating the best options. I will go for something simple like a Greek yogurt bowl over something that I know is going to keep me more satisfied and energized. If I have it prepped, I'll eat it. But if I don't have it prepped, then I'm finding myself going hours without it. And then I find myself starving by dinner time and maybe overeating or not eating the foods that I want to. So it's all about how you're strategizing it and planning it so that you can be consistent with it. And now I want to simplify your habits and the anchors of your habits that you're going to be focusing on each day. I think it can be really easy to get carried away with having so many different areas that you're going to be focusing on when it comes to your habits. But really, if you want to move forward and you want to see your results accelerate, you need to be focusing on 3 core habits. I think these are the most important ones. And then as you get consistent with them, you can always add more. But I wouldn't go past 3 a day because if you're already not hitting your workouts, if you're already struggling with your nutrition, adding more to your to-do list isn't going to solve anything. So let's focus on 3 core habits. The first being one morning habit, the second being an afternoon habit, and the third being an evening habit. And I'll give you an example of what this can look like. Your morning habit could be making your breakfast for the day so that you don't have to worry about it later, or making and packing your lunch for work so that you know that that is taken care of for the day. Your midday habit could be getting your steps in, going for a walk after lunch, or making sure that you're being a little active during the day. And then your evening habit could be your workout, be the structure that you have each day where you're being consistent and you can make sure that you are repeating habits and tracking those things. It doesn't have to be crazy either. It can be simplified in the terms of journaling in the morning, walking in the afternoon, and stretching at night. It really can be any core things, 3 core things that you want to work on, but just be focusing on one 3 times a day. So one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening, so that you're taking breaks throughout the day and where there's chaos, and making sure that you're really focused on the things that are going to help you move the needle. And then the last core habit, the last core thing that you need to be focusing on is your rest and your sleep. This needs to be a non-negotiable, and I feel like this is a piece that a lot of people struggle with, especially when it comes to the end of the day. One of the biggest pieces that I work with women on a lot in coaching is their ability to kind of decompress at the end of the day and get away from maybe mindlessly scrolling or feeling like the end of the day has to be a time for them to just have some enjoyment because they've just been so busy for the entire day. And I want that for you, but I also want you to be realistic about how much time you're spending in these areas. One area I see a lot is scrolling from like 8 to 10 p.m. and then feeling like you didn't get enough of the things done you needed to set you up for the next day, whether that's missing packing your lunch, not cleaning up your house and feeling chaotic, or just not setting yourself up for the morning. And yes, I think it's important that you have the decompressing session, but I also think it's important that you are focusing on ways to wind down so that you can get good sleep. And I see this a lot where you go to bed too late, then you miss your alarm in the morning and it causes you to feel really groggy. You're not getting enough sleep and you're not energized to either get up or get your workout done, or to even just get your workout done later because you're so tired. And we need to work on your rest and your sleep so that you can feel energized throughout the day. But it's also so important for the goals that you're trying to reach. If you are not getting enough sleep, you're going to have higher cravings, you're going to have less energy, and you're going to be much less consistent. The less sleep you get, the more likely you are to have binges throughout the day or to not be having good nutrition throughout the day because your hunger is going to spike from the changes in your hormones. But you're also not going to be rested and recovered, which is going to impact your ability to train consistently, to be consistent in general, and even your ability to grow and develop muscle mass. So you want to make sure that you're really prioritizing this. And I would highly suggest getting 6 to 9 hours per night, at least 5 to 6 times per week. That's going to be the sweet spot for making sure you're well rested and you're well recovered. And I just wanted to kind of end the podcast by talking about how important your mindset is and how you are the one who is in control of the things that you do throughout the day. Yes, there are going to be things that are out of your control, but you kind of telling yourself that you don't have the time, you are going to basically lead yourself in that direction. You are in control of your mindset, and that is one area that you do control. So if you're always saying, I don't have the time, I don't have the motivation, I don't have the energy to do so, then that will be your reality. You need to find ways that you can say, instead of I'll start next week, I'm going to take one action today and I'm going to incorporate these things so that I can start building momentum, even if it's small, because 10 minutes is better than no minutes. And if you're constantly waiting and you're constantly telling yourself you'll start next week or you'll start after the holidays, you're basically telling yourself it's okay to procrastinate and that you have the time to do so. And I think it's more important that you find ways that you start taking action versus telling yourself you'll take action later, because those are the things that are actually going to help you get stronger and get more consistent, is the small little actions that you're able to incorporate versus the ones that you say you're going to incorporate. You are what you do, not what you say you do. So make sure that you are finding ways that you can add little things in. It doesn't have to be huge and it doesn't have to look like anybody else's, but it should be something that is going to add some momentum to your day and maybe give you even a small win. Now, like I said in the beginning of the episode, I am starting the subscription series, which is going to be much more in depth. It's going to go through a bunch of different topics inside of the winter arc and more as we continue the podcast. I'm really excited about this because I wanted to make sure that I had a community that is going to be able to give you resources, give you more like live coaching sessions or course sessions that really dive into some of these topics and give you a breakdown so that you can use them to kind of accelerate your results. So if you're interested in that, I have that link down below. And if you have any questions about this subscription, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to answer them and have you a part of the community. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode, and I will talk to you next week in the next episode.